speech, and it's well, I'm going to stop this for a second. It's very interesting because commentators say, for most of the time we've been with Moses, Exodus, Vayikra, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So 4 out of the 5 books. He's not that articulate. He basically repeats what says God said to Moses, tell the people of Israel, the children of Israel, and he repeats. Very rarely do we hear him express himself from his personal point of view. But now in this book, and it's at the end of his life, and he already found out in the previous book, in the book of Numbers, which is such a weird name in English, because in Hebrew it's Bamidbar, which means in the desert. When they're in the desert is when he is told that he's not entering the land, the promised land, the land of Canaan. He's not entering. He's going to die before he goes in. And we've talked about, and I'm sure you studied why he's not getting in, but they're on the border. And, we've talked about such a thing as a living, or you've heard of a living will. A living will is kind of everything you want to say before you die to your loved ones. And it's almost like the book of Deuteronomy, or Devarim, meaning words, is a living will from Moses. And he's saying everything that he never said before. Part of it is a review of what they've gone through together, but part of it is very new. Now, historically, or from the idea of critical biblical literary criticism, scholars believe that this book was written a few hundred years after the rest of the Torah. It was written when they were already in the land, but created as if they hadn't entered. And if you look in the Bible, in the book of Kings, there's the story of how during this king, what was his name? Yeshaya, he decides to sort of clean up the temple in Jerusalem. It's kind of dilapidated or whatever, and people are not being particularly observant. And the priests come to him and say, you won't believe it. We're cleaning it up. We're renovating the temple. Now, the temple's huge, remember. We found a 5th book by Moses. This is the book, Deuteronomy or Devarim. And it's a whole new book. And scholars say they think that actually Jeremiah or their prophets at the time wrote this because the country was a mess. People were not observing anything. It turned out they hadn't sacrificed or observed Pesach for 100 years or more. I mean, there were idols in the temple. There was prostitutes, sacred prostitutes in the temple, because they talk about how they get rid of them after they find this book. And so Josiah reads the book, and then he reads it to the people. And it kind of creates like a renaissance or a return to Judaism. Part of it, which is not in this portion, talks about all the blessings you'll get if you follow the mitzvot and all the curses that will happen to you if you don't. So it's kind of a warning. So anyway, this book has Moses standing before the people, and he is telling them their choices. And really, it's perfect for Yom Kippur. These are our choices also. They're not that different from 2,500 years ago. So let's look at what those choices are and what promises Moses gives. I mean, some of them have to do with weather and nature, so we're probably not going to take those literally, but okay. So, Merle, why don't you start reading? Oops, sorry. Already.
With what number?
Hold on. Yeah, well, I just pushed it up too fast. Start from the beginning. Number 9. So the reading for Yom Kippur starts at number 9. Go ahead.
You are all standing this day before the Lord, your God, the leaders of your tribes, your elders and your officers, every man of Israel. Your young children, your women, and your convert who is within your camp, both your woodcutters, and your water drawers, that you may enter the covenant of the Lord your God and his oath, which the Lord your God is making with you this day.
Okay, let's stop here. So who is included in this whatever's going to happen? Who is he talking to?
Everyone.
Everyone, even the converts, your women, the woodcutters and the water drawers. What does that say? I find that interesting because you're in the desert. So what's the wood and where's the
People
water?
that do whatever the labor is for the people that are
Right.
there.
But it's saying from the highest, the leaders, your elders, your officers, and not just the men, the women, the children, the convert, the lowest of the low. I guess the woodcutters and the water drawers were like on the low scale of society. All of you are included. So there's not an elite attitude in Judaism or about these blessings. Anyone can follow this and receive the blessings. So you're all standing here that you may enter the covenant of the Lord your God. Okay, so what's the covenant? Somebody, what's the covenant? Come on.
The 613 commandments.
Well, but what about them? What is the covenant? That's like, what's the
It's
covenant?
it's
A
a unique.
covenant is like a deal. It's like
It's,
a treaty. So what's the treaty?
That
well,
you
it's,
worship the God?
And it's two-sided. A covenant is two-sided.
That God will respect you.
Respect.
Well, that's probably the wrong word.
What's the word? What's the word,
Bless?
Jonathan? What is the covenant? Do you think?
Watch over the people,
Okay.
to be with them, to be here with you, with us.
Okay. Jonathan, do you have an opinion?
Well, to serve God and receive the blessings for that, or to not serve God and receive the curses for that.
Right. But what does serving God look like? What does serving God look like?
isn't
doing
it?
whatever.
The
Oh,
relationship-
sorry.
It's about the relationship between God and the Jews.
What about
Following
it?
the laws
And
of Torah?
relationship maintained over time.
Okay, but what's the covenant? Okay, you're all kind of like circling around it, and Jonathan was pretty close when he said, get the blessings and serve God. But how do we serve God?
Obeying the commandments.
Yeah, follow the commandments.
We
Okay.
love one another.
We love one another. We follow the mitzvahs. We seek justice. We remember the stranger. We feed the hungry. We clothe the naked. I mean, it's basically saying if you follow this way of life, you will have blessings. Okay, so the covenant is you follow the Torah, and I will bless you, and I will be with you, and you will be my people. And there's an other underlying thing, which it's not here, but what we've learned, it's written many times in other places. If you stray and you come back, I will accept you and forgive you and bless you again. And so there's kind of the teshuvah element of Yom Kippur, that if you stray but you return, and we'll see that as well. So he's saying you all can enter this covenant. All right, so where's the share place? Share. Okay, let's share. Okay, Ben, do you want to read? Wait, hold on, I have to make this smaller. Okay, so it said,
Starting at 12,
yeah, go ahead.
in order to establish you this day as his people, and that he will be your God, as he spoke to you, and as he spoke to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob.
Okay, you can go on for two more.
But not only with you am I making this covenant and this oath, but with those standing here with us today before the Lord our God, and also with those who are not here with us this day.
Okay, who's that? Who's not here?
Future generations. How
Future
about
gen, the
people
future
that
gen.
are past, people that are morte, dead?
No, I don't think it's people who are dead. It's people who are in the future. I think it's
Okay.
for all generations. And I think if you think about this, it's on two levels. It's a beautiful idea, but also if King Josiah is reading this to the people in, it's like 635 is when, no, something, sorry, seven, wait, six, yeah, 635, 586 is when the temple was destroyed. 635, he's reading this. It supposedly took place in 1200 BCE. Now it's 635, so that's like how many years ago? Over 500 years ago. It's telling you, you today are still part of the covenant and can get the blessings. It just wasn't for our ancestors or the people who were at Sinai or in the desert. It's for all of us. And this is sort of a fundamental idea in Judaism that we're all connected, we're all in the covenant, we all have the relationship. And even the woodcutter and the water carrier, even the top and the bottom, there's this equality, which, if you think about in the ancient world, was pretty radical. The poor and the workers had nothing. They were dirt. They weren't even considered valuable as people. And here in this Torah, it's writing that all of us, no matter our station in life. Cindy, is your hand up?
Well, I think the fact they say woodcutters kind of validates that it was written in Israel, not in the desert.
Yeah, I think it was, well, yeah, it was written, but it was written by amazing prophets who felt like we need a reboot. We need to, and it's not, and they have there's in this Deuteronomy book, which they have, well, first of all, they have like the 10 Commandments. They talk about the Exodus and all the plagues and everything. But it's in this book that the Shema is written and the V'ahavta is written, which was never seen before in this book. They were amazing poets, visionaries, prophets, and writers. Ben.
Rabbi Nanus, thank you. I feel like we've seen this kind of quote or these instructions future generations before here in the Torah. Is that correct, Rabbi? That sort of that referencing to who's here right now and people that aren't here yet. This community has been referenced before.
I think it has been referenced before, and there's certainly in the V'ahavta, which is in this teach your children, and there's reference to your children. But if this book is brand new, and we have to assume that most people didn't read the rest of the Torah, you know what I mean? This is kind of like a synopsis of the highlights plus some new ideas. So you're right. It's not like a new idea, but I think saying from the lowest to the low, we've said, remember the stranger and take care of the stranger. I don't think they've ever said from the high to the low, you're equal in the covenant. I think that idea could be fresh, but I would have to go dive in to be sure. So let's continue. Hi, Pam. Nice to see you. Would you like to read? Okay, hold on. Right here, we're now it jumps to chapter 30, because this is the Yom Kippur Parshat. This is not just the Torah reading of the week. So go ahead, Pam, and it will be
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Before you go on, this is
Yes.
Brad.
Yeah, Brad, I see you.
It seems to me that this, and I brought this out last week at Torah study, it seems to me that this concept of the covenant evolves because originally it was sealed by the Brit.
Right. That's all you had to do.
Which was limited to men.
Yes.
And now we have a contract. The contract concept continues. But what's changed is the enlarged group that's covered by the contract.
I think you're right. That's a really good point. And it even to me affirms that this was another group of writers, a few hundred years later, who wanted to include everyone in the possibility of blessing and in the covenant. So it's actually, again, a very sort of forward-thinking, modern idea in an ancient time. But you're absolutely right. Okay.
It also means you're bound to the laws also. It's not just like it's not just like, oh yeah, I wouldn't take it as completely benevolent. I mean, I think there's an obligation that goes with it along with the benefit, you know.
Absolutely. And what's so interesting is in the Talmud, and I don't know, I mean, we can feel both ways about this. The rabbis, the sages, now we're talking about another 800 years, or no, 600 years later, said, well, women are not required to follow everything. Any law that is constricted by time, she doesn't have to do because she's too busy raising her children. So, like, she doesn't have to pray 3 times a day. There are certain things she doesn't have to put on tefillin in the morning. She doesn't have to do certain things. She has to do the main ethical behaviors, but she's not constricted if it's by time, that it only takes place. You have to do something at a certain time. They released women from that obligation because they were all raising children. And then the next level of rabbis, when women like said, well, what if I want to do this? And then they said, well, women are holier than men and they don't need it. So that's why they don't have to read Torah. They don't have to do this. Women are like holier. So Orthodox and ultra Orthodox Jews will tell you, we don't have to do it. Women are considered higher than men. So, it's okay. Anyway.
But yet 25% of our lives.
Except what? I didn't hear.
Dirty, like from the menstrual cycle, like we're
yeah. Unclean. I wouldn't say dirty.
Unclean. Sorry.
Impure.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I'm not happy with that idea that, women are not allowed to be touched and this and that when they have their menstrual cycle. However, there's a whole taboo around blood all over Judaism. I mean, kashrut, you got rid of the blood. When you gave sacrifices, you poured the blood. And so it's more about the blood than the woman. If a man, you know what I mean? And so I agree with you. I mean, they've taken it to big extremes. But anyway.
I just think the irony is interesting.
I agree.
I don't think that it's right, wrong, or,
No, it's ancient in its view, I'll say. Okay, so go ahead. Now we see the, here's what Pam was saying, it's not a free ride. Go ahead, Pam.
And it will be when all these things come upon you, let me read. And it will be when all these things come upon you, the blessing. Okay. And it will be when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before you, that you will consider in your heart among all the nations where the Lord your God has banished you.
Go ahead.
And you will return to the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and you will listen to his voice according to all that I am commanding you this day and your children. Then the Lord your God will bring back your exiles, and he will have mercy upon you. He will once again gather you from all the nations where the Lord your God had dispersed you.
Okay, so this is don't forget it jumped. It jumped because this is for Yom Kippur. And it's saying when you consider the curses and what happens to you when you're cursed. Now, we didn't read the curses, but they were pretty bad. And, you were kicked out of your land, you were starved, you were conquered, you were enslaved. And God sent them to you because you didn't follow the Torah. And then when you think about it, you'll return and God will have mercy on you. And if we take this in a more modern way, it's saying, no matter how far you've strayed, and maybe your life has become terrible, if you come back to Judaism, to the Torah, to the mitzvos, God will gather you. And now imagine reading this in the Middle Ages or in the Spanish Inquisition or all this stuff where it says he will gather you again from all nations where you've been sent to, or after the destruction of the first temple when they were taken to Babylonia, or the second temple where we were scattered all over the world. It says God will bring you back, which honestly reaffirms this idea that Israel was our home, that our homeland, we've been, we would be coming back even in 623 BCE. Okay, so I just want to go a little further. Okay, Jonathan, why don't you read number 4?
Even if your exiles are at the end of the heavens, the Lord your God will gather you from there, and he will take you from there. And the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your forefathers possessed, and you too will take possession of it. And he will do good to you, and he will make you more numerous than your forefathers.
So even in the Torah, we were dreaming of, it's already said that this is our land. This is our, we're the indigenous people of the land. And even when we were scattered, we were supposed to come back. Okay, and then one more.
And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you may love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul for the sake of your life.
Okay, what does that mean, circumcise your heart? It's written somewhere else too, circumcise your heart. What does that mean, do you think? Circumcise your heart.
Open up your heart to remove it of constrictions. And it was written also vis-a-vis Pharaoh.
Pharaoh, but also it's written in another place in the book of Deuteronomy, meaning take the hard covering, take the covering off and be vulnerable and be able to feel, be compassionate and, take off this hard shell of yourself. And so it's interesting. You'll come back to the land if you follow, you follow the Torah. This is the promise, and you will have compassion and be kind and have blessings. So again, this is a Yom Kippur reading. We need to all take off the shell and the indifference and the, removal and become more compassionate and vulnerable and sensitive to each other. So we have to look at this, as a message through the centuries of what it's trying to tell us. You're going to come home. You're going to get back to your homeland, no matter if you're scattered to the ends of the earth, and you're going to have blessings, and you're going to be sensitive, and you're going to be kind and loving to each other. So it was something to really hold on to, I think, in hard times all through the centuries when Jews were, in Europe and suffering horrible anti-Semitism and oppression. So, that's so interesting about the Torah. You can keep. Okay. Who would like to read? Rebecca? Oh, and then Jan, I'll have you next.
Can I ask you a quick question about the getting back to the homeland part?
Yeah, of course.
Is it also typically or sometimes interpreted metaphorically, meaning coming back? Sorry, cat with zoomies. Coming back to your heart,
No.
or it's literally physical. Okay.
Yeah, coming back to your homeland. No, yeah, it was physical. Okay, so who did I say? Rebecca?
Yes, Rabbi. I always struggled during Yom Kippur with that particular idea of compassion, because sometimes it just feels like it's so difficult, especially this year, to have compassion for people that are exerting violence against us.
I don't think that's what's being asked of us. If we've been wronged, it says that you cannot forgive someone unless they ask for it. So we're not saying it's not, turn the other cheek. It's not forgive people for they not know what they do, and we can just forgive people. That's not what they're saying. It's saying it's really closer to love your neighbor as yourself, and your neighbor is it's actually your fellow Jew. It's talking about, it says we love your neighbor, but it's re'echa, it's the people who live near you, it's the people around you. There's a separate blessing for, love the stranger, remember the stranger. But we don't love our enemy. That's not Jewish. If enemies seek peace and ask for forgiveness or reconcile, yes, we're obliged to try to do that. But we don't love our enemy just randomly. That's not what it's saying. So does that help?
Well, can I just push back a little bit? Because
Sure.
what do you do with someone who's aligned themselves with what is it called? Jewish Voices for Peace.
What do you do? Okay, before I answer, I'm curious what somebody else would say. What would you do? Someone, what would you do? Susan?
Yeah, I would say you don't have to love them because they may be Jewish, which is what you're talking about. You don't have to love. They're turned out to be enemies because they take the side of the violent people. So I don't think you have to love them.
Okay.
I think loving your enemy is or turn the other cheek is a Christian kind of ideal. Turn the other cheek. We're not supposed to love evil or evildoers. In fact, quite the opposite. We're supposed to work against it.
You could say Jewish Voices for Peace. You could say people who don't agree with you politically in terms of a candidate or, other beliefs. I think you treat, as long as they treat you, you treat them, you're polite, you're civil, and you say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And maybe you don't have to agree, but maybe you can have respect, you can have a rapport. Or maybe you just say, there's a congregant in the temple who I really, really like, and he is very right-wing. And we even laugh about it. And I say, okay, I love you and you're fantastic, and we're not going to talk about it. He's a good person. He's a very good person. He just has this belief that I mean, his candidate is not my candidate. Let's put it that way. But I think you don't hate them. You don't, I mean, unless they're hurting you, I think most people just are very fervent in their beliefs, and we try to coexist.
Agree
We
to
try to
disagree.
coexist. What, Jan?
We agree to disagree.
We agree to disagree. So, but you don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to marry them. Oh, who is that couple? James Carville and who are they still?
Yeah, that's right. And Mary,
Madeline.
Right.
Are they still married?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like the most Democratic. She was the most Republican, and they were both advisors. They stayed married.
They're still married. I mean, he was talking about it the other day on some newscast.
Okay, so there you go.
But I'm thinking that, like Arnie always tells me, don't post political things on Facebook, all not because of who our friends are, but because if he has clients who we know how they feel, and especially the ones that are in northern parts of northern Arizona, he said if they're searching his Facebook just out of curiosity about him and they see stuff that I'm posted, he doesn't want to lose them as clients. They just don't discuss it. And he doesn't even discuss politics with his business partner, who has a totally different philosophy than all of us on this screen. Okay. So it's a matter of being careful.
Well, it's also, this is a very big country, and we have to, part of the contract, I think, of being an American is that we have to be able to live with the differences. As long as they're not marching down our streets and screaming, Jews will not replace us, then we're not going to live with it. But people who have their thinking. Okay, Susan.
Yes, I was going to say, I may be a little too harsh because you raised Jewish Voices for Peace. And my point with them was that they were actively aiding or abetting the other side. But I have family members and we disagree politically and we don't bring up politics. And I love them and I respect them. And we talk about, just as you had said with your congregant, I think there can be, and I think there can be points on both sides. But politics is the biggest divisive thing now in our country, and it's gotten it's gotten so stringent that I long to get back to the middle.
Okay. Pam. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out the Skokie versus Illinois case about the Nazis who were marching in the street in Skokie, Illinois, back in, I forget what year the case was. Well, it would have happened many years before that anyway, but I think it's I think it's an interesting concept that we as Jews often tout, which is, you know, we have freedom of speech, or political speech anyway. We have freedom to practice our religion the way we want. And that then butts up against each other. And when it's different from us or different from what we think it should be, and whether we have to tolerate somebody marching down our street. And you know, I spent a little time working at Netflix just to share, and they prided themselves on a certain kind of diversity, but there wasn't one single diverse opinion. I'm sure that there was no conservative, there was no very religious person, and I'm sure everybody went to college, and I'm sure they all had a very liberal bent to it. And I fit in with that just fine. That's not a problem for me. But you know, we get to this place where what really is diversity and what do we really believe about diversity? Anyway, there's no answer to it. I just think it's an interesting position to consider. And I would say we still need to moderate content on social sites and all of these things. But I do think that it's a thorny situation.
It is. Okay. I would like, oh, can we just continue? Because let's just move on a little bit to because there's so much more to talk. Okay. So hold on. All right. So then now this is, you know, ancient and very, if you everything you're supposed to do and love God with all your heart and all your soul, and meaning, you know, really take into heart all the commandments, what are your blessings going to be? So who hasn't read? Anne, you wanted to read. Go ahead.
Starting at 7.
Yeah.
And the Lord your God will place all these curses upon your enemies and upon your adversaries who pursued you. And you will return and listen to the voice of the Lord and fulfill all his commandments, which I command you this day. And the Lord your God will make you abundant for good in all the work of your hands, in the fruit of your womb, in the fruit of your livestock, and the fruit of your soil. For the Lord will once again rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your forefathers.
Keep going. One more.
When you obey the Lord your God to observe his commandments and his statutes written in this Torah scroll, and when you return to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul.
Okay, so what's the benefits of returning to God and loving God? What are you going to get? Do you want to look at it again? Do you need to look at it again? What will you get according to this? Take a look. You will get, your enemies will be cursed, and, you know, they'll be gone. And
you're going to be fruitful and multiply, and your livestock and your vegetation will be fruitful and multiply.
Everything you do will be, you know, blessed. If you follow the commandments written in this Torah scroll, which again tells you, I have to say, hold on, you know, there was no Torah scroll in the desert when Moses was talking to the people. That's why we know this was written later, when there was the Torah scroll they found. This is what, you know, they're reading out of now. But when Moses was talking, there was no Torah scroll. Maybe somebody was writing things down, but there was no Torah scroll yet. So I think that again just affirms that this was written later, but so important. And also such a good promise if you're living in the land and you're straying. What an incentive to return to Judaism. All of this stuff. And then, okay, now this is, okay, who hasn't read? Jonathan, did you read? I mean, Benjamin, did you read? Ben, did you read?
I did, but I'm happy to read again,
Okay,
Rabbi.
let me see. Oh, Cindy, you didn't read yet, right? Okay. This is really powerful. Okay. Okay, go ahead from 11.
For this commandment which I command you this day is not concealed from you, nor is it far away. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will go up to heaven for us and fetch it for us to tell it to us, so that we can fulfill it? Nor is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will cross to the other side of the sea for us and fetch it for us to tell it to us so that we can fulfill it? Rather, this thing is very close to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart so that you can fulfill it.
Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Don't make excuses.
Okay, what else does it mean, do you think? It's not across the sea, it's not far away. Okay, who raised their hand? Somebody over here. Okay, Rebecca.
It's accessible.
It's accessible. It's accessible, and there's this question: who's going to? Oh, Pam, go ahead.
Well, I think of it, maybe today I'm feeling very obliged, but I think of it as an obligation. You know, each individual is responsible for learning, for seeking it out, for following the rules. This is not like somebody else does it and then you follow like a sheep. No, you're responsible for seeking it out yourself and thinking about it yourself and enacting it yourself. So,
Yes, I think it's saying like don't wait for somebody else to give it to you. Seek it. And where is it? Ben, what you're talking, but you're muted.
I'm very animated here, Rabbi Nanus.
That's
I feel
good.
like it's saying it's everywhere. It's all around you. You don't have to find it. It's here. It's amongst us in this
It's
room. It's in your room. It's everywhere. You don't have to go looking for it.
I think it's even more than that because, and I'm reading this for the first time when I suddenly saw this. It says, it's in your mouth and in your heart.
Right.
So what I think that means is we all have the potential to be holy and live a beautiful life. It's kind of saying that as a human being, you already have the potential to live on a high plane and be a holy human being and live on a high level. It's in you, it's in your mouth, it's in your heart. You can do it. Don't say, oh, it's so far away, or who's going to help me, or who's going to. No, you can do it. It's for you, but it's already in you. And I think that also talks about the idea of the divine or the holy spark that's in you, that we talk about we're created in the image of God and that there's this soul or beautiful, like it's in you. All you have to do is ignite it. And I think when we think about Yom Kippur, the message is, okay, you messed up, but it's in you to do better. It's okay. You can do it. You already have the potential. So I think it's kind of very beautiful to say that. It's not far away or whatever. It's like, oh, I can never do it. You can do it. You already there just by being who you are. Any thoughts on that before we continue? Merle.
I think Yom Kippur is a reminder that it's in us. And especially, I mean, this is going to sound kind of nasty. The number of people that show up for Yom Kippur that don't show up for anything else. I think in a way they need that reminder as much as, if not more, than those who are always there.
I agree with you, but I just want to say, and I'm a rabbi and I love when people show up, but if going to temple is not their thing,
Oh, I know.
hopefully they're still following all of the Jewish, important tenets and philosophies and teachings about the way that we live in the world. Ideally, they would come not just for the prayer, but for the community and the connection, which people are doing a lot. But if they come on Yom Kippur and they hear it, it's very probably this was not, I think people didn't always show up for Yom Kippur ever. And that's why they picked this really important Parshat to read on Yom Kippur. If they're going to come once a year, at least we're going to, hit them over the head where we're going to remind them.
Right.
Brad, yes.
Yeah, two things, Rabbi. I think this concept of it being in the heart, again, brings us back to that concept of what were we reading about before? The brit of the heart,
Right. Circumcising the heart, the breach of the heart. Yes,
circumcising,
right.
circumcising the heart. It's in that same vein. And then to me, the difficulty with this passage is that on the one hand, it seems to be saying, dummy, it's right there. It's so easy for you to get, and you don't really, it's not a struggle. And yet here we are week after week coming to Torah study and struggling with the Torah, struggling with the mitzvot. It's not that easy. It's not, there's a contradiction here in what we're being told.
Well, I think it's like, people who want to be athletes or people who want to, learn something, and they say you can do it. Doesn't mean you're going to do it tomorrow. It's a practice. Judaism is a practice. And you're right, it is a struggle. And Israel means struggle with God, wrestle with God, just so you know. But you're right. I don't think he's saying it's easy. He's just saying you have the potential, but you have to do it. You can't, it's not just going to be easy. I don't see the word easy there. I love the idea that originally it was men and they circumcised their penis, and that was the covenant. And now God's saying we're all in the covenant and we're going to circumcise our heart. That's a very beautiful new idea, that now anybody can be part of the covenant. And then we'll circumcise the brit. The bris is of our heart, not some part of our body.
And Rabbi, just to follow up on that, is that the basis for Christian no longer circumcising the body?
Wait, hold on. Is that the basis for what? I didn't hear it.
For
Is that
Christians,
No,
is that why Christians don't circumcise?
not that no. As I understand it, when Christians were trying to entice pagans to become, convert, that was kind of a deal breaker. You know what I mean? Like, how do I become a Jew? Well, you have to circumcise your penis, blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, no, forget it. You don't have to do that. You have to believe in God. You have to believe in Jesus as your savior. They got rid of a lot of the obstacles. Originally, Christians were Jews, just like Orthodox Jews. They were Christian Jews. It was Messianic Jews, so to speak. But as I understand it, they took away like kosher laws and circumcision and other things that were just too off-putting when they were trying to convert large groups of pagans. Between Judaism and Christianity, it was a lot easier to be Christian. So I think that was the reason. Though that's a good point. You don't have to circumcise your body, you circumcise your heart. I've never heard that in Christianity, but I'm going to ask. I know some ministers and things and Catholic priests. I'm going to ask them because that's a good point. Okay, here's like one of the most important quotes. And Brad, if you would like, you can read this if you're up to it. Okay.
That's not I prefer not to, Rabbi.
Okay. So, who hasn't read? Rebecca, did you read? You read, right?
No.
Who said that? Susan.
Yeah.
Okay.
13?
No.
No, we've read that already.
I want you to read this one, 15.
Okay, 15. Behold, I have set before you today life and good, and death and evil. Inasmuch as I command you this day to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to observe his commandments, his statutes, and his ordinances, so that you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land to which you are coming to take possession of it. But if your heart
wait, this is the same old warning. I want to move on.
There's a lot of really icky things in there.
Okay, here, go to 19.
Okay, this day I call upon the heaven and the earth as witnesses that I have warned you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Choose life so that you and your offspring will live. To love the Lord your God, to listen to his voice, and to cleave to him. For that is your life and the length of your days, to dwell on the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them.
Okay. Choose life. That is a huge teaching in Judaism. Choose life. Choose a life affirming way of living, but don't despair. I also think it's hope. Don't despair. Choose life. There is a better way and you can choose it, but also choose. That is very interesting in Judaism. Choose. You can choose. We have choice. How are we going to live? And maybe bad things will happen. We know if we drink every day and get drunk, we're going to destroy our liver. We know what we're choosing. If we eat all the time, we're going to get, ill or sick or whatever, heart disease. Choose life. And so in the end of on Yom Kippur, we read this and we invite everyone to choose life, to choose a way of living that has meaning. So that's the Parsha for Yom Kippur morning. We have 12 minutes. The Haftorah is fantastic. It's my favorite Haftorah. It's Isaiah, who actually lived before this. He lived in the 8th century BCE, and he's talking for God, and he talks about the people on Yom Kippur. Wait, who hasn't read? I'm just looking. Everybody has read except people who don't have their thing, so I want you to look at this because this is wonderful. And okay.
Could I just interject something? I'm thinking about that with Israel right now. I have reports that they are choosing life and they're actively going against the evil just by choosing the life and being productive and hopeful.
Yes, but hopefully there'll be less fighting and some kind of peace sometime soon is what we really want, so people can live a more normal life. Right now it's really tough. Okay, so here is this, and I'm just going to read this little part so we can talk about it. So here's Isaiah, and he's saying, cry aloud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet, declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob okay, so let me just say this. This is Isaiah saying, this is what God is saying. All of this is God talking through Isaiah. So Isaiah is saying, God is saying this to you, people, Jewish people. Cry aloud, do not hold back, lift up your voice like a trumpet, declare to my people their turn. Oh, no. This is what he's saying. I'm sorry. He's saying this to Isaiah. Declare to my people their turn, tell them their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness, did not forsake the judgment of their God. They ask me of righteous judgments. They delight to draw near God. Okay, he's saying, he's saying that, Isaiah, tell these people that they're sinners. But these people, they pretend they're so religious. They pretend that they care so much about God. They're such hypocrites, is what he's really saying. And hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Where's the share? Okay. So, Ben, why don't you read this? This is what the Jewish people are saying. Verse 3.
Why have we fasted when you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves and you take no knowledge of it?
Okay, stop. So these are the Jews, and they're saying, why are things not better? Why have you not blessed us? We fasted like we're supposed to. We humble ourselves, but you didn't even acknowledge it. This is the complaints of the Jews to God. And then this is God's answer. Go ahead, Ben.
Behold, in the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard on high.
Meaning, this kind of fasting I'm not going to hear. But what is he saying they're doing on Yom Kippur? Penina. You're muted, Penina.
All right, I'm going to go back a little bit before getting to that particular point. I think that I'm being reminded constantly, or I have to remind myself, that it shows up so many times, especially when Isaiah was said it, that it's new generations are there every time. We are forgetting that they were there for 40 years, and there was a lot of new generations.
Wait, this is not in the desert. This is not.
Right, I know that. But in the process of getting to where they are, there were new generations that came. And now that all this talk about being strong and encouragement, it's like you tell a child every time, do it, you can do it, you can do it. You did it before, you can do it. And that's a good thing. And the reminder is, again, I'm saying it's because it's not the same generation that he talks to every time. When you're talking Isaiah, how long was it before the Assyrians took over? It's already way,
Not long.
Not long. That's what I'm saying.
It's
exactly. So there is a new situation around them every time. They are not sitting in the same place, looking at the same point or stone in the desert. Things changing. And the generations, again, I'm saying, what, every 15 years there is a new generation, or every 18 years? So you have to remind them and give them courage that they can do it. Because it's just like in a family. A child can do something, you tell him, oh, come on, let's talk about it. What do you think you should have done? That you could do better than that. And every time that the father is going to talk to him, it's going to be a different situation. And yet he still has to deal with it. And this is how I look at it. It's like the encouragement that even in bad times, they were about to be destroyed, and they weren't that perfect. They were divided. Half of the country still went back to worship idols, and the other half was not, and they were fighting among them. So there is a need to remind all the time to a person, whether it's in a bad time or in a good time, that to give him encouragement. And I think this whole Torah business is a matter of giving you a guideline to a better life and encourage you to do it. And what the result will be, whether you do it or not. And that's how it works.
Okay, I agree with you. Isaiah is particularly talking about Jews who pretend to be religious and they're fasting. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not just claiming, I'm just saying. And then on Yom Kippur, meanwhile, their workers are still working. They're still oppressing people. They're talking business in Shul. Wherever they are, they're talking business, but we fasted. I hear people all the time. They don't go to temple. They don't do anything. They're staying home. They're working, but they're fasting. Like that's the big thing of Yom Kippur. So Isaiah,
maybe they think that will atone for it, for the other things that they're not doing.
Okay, but let's look at what Isaiah says God says is the kind of fast, and this is what we read on Yom Kippur. If you're fasting, and then he says this. So Susan, why don't you read this?
I think he's blaming the victim.
Okay, let's read it first. Susan, is this the fast? Are you there? No? Okay, Rebecca, why don't you read?
Is such the fast that I choose, a day for a person to humble himself? Is it to bow down his head like a reed and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this fast that I choose?
Okay, so this is the fast. That's not what I want you to do. Beat your breast. I sinned. I failed and fast. This is the sin. This is what Isaiah says God is saying. Go ahead.
Is not this fast the fast that I choose to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house, when you see the naked to cover him, and not to hide your own flesh from your own flesh?
Not hide yourself from your
own flesh. Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall.
Okay, let's stop. That's great. So basically, what is this Torah saying about what does God really want from us?
Wants ethical behavior and not this these ritual obeisances. That it's how you act and obey and treat not obey, how you act and treat others is what's important. How you act morally and ethically in the world.
Right. I say if you're the most religious Jew in the world in terms of following all the rituals, but you're cheating in business, you're a bad landlord, you're hurting people, whatever you're doing, you're not a Jew. You're not a good Jew. And Isaiah says this, this is the fast. Refrain, and exactly what Penina's saying, we need to remind people, but refrain from this cruelty, this selfishness, this, self-centeredness. That's the fast from that. Don't worry about not eating for a day. That's not the point. We fast because we're supposed to, actually, the reason we fast is we abstain from everything physical to kind of remind us of our death and what it's going to be like. And we wear white like a shroud, and you're supposed to contemplate that someday you'll die and you need to make your life meaningful. That's the reason for the fast. But
if they let you.
But if Isaiah is saying, if it's between eating on Yom Kippur and doing good deeds and doing mitzvot, or fasting and just going back to your old ways, who needs fasting? Don't worry about fasting. It's not the point. And yet so many people, I meet them all, oh, I'm fasting. Okay. But what else are you doing? So I wish you all an easy, if you're fasting, fast, but I do wish you to be inscribed and sealed in the book of life this year. And we should all
you too.
have a safe year of peace, a year of a year of just no strife, and return again, as Susan said, to some kind of normal of tolerance, acceptance, and love. So Shana
Tova.
Thank you.
Shana Tova.
Okay, bye.
Susan,
Thank you.
Susan,
Thank you.
amen to that. Amen to that, and right back to you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it comes
Thank
from
you,
the heart.
Susan.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Gmar Chatima Tova, everybody.
Yes, David.
Rabbi, do you see me or hear me?
Yeah, I see you and hear you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to introduce myself properly. We've met before, but I just wanted to say hi. I'm trying to join these, but I'm not ready to say anything. But I loved it, and I just absolutely wanted to just tell you how it really